All right, so everybody watching right now, zero people. I didn't expect such a great turnout, but yeah, welcome to this first episode of the Zone Motion podcast. That was the best name that I could come up with on 2 days' notice. So maybe it'll evolve over time, but here we are. My name's Colin Smith. I'm here with former MLB shortstop and World Series champion Buddy Biancalana. And today we are going to have our first episode. And I thought for this first episode, it'd be really good to just talk to Buddy, understand his background story so that you guys could kind of all understand, how Zone Motion got started. What is the central idea behind Zone Motion? What is the why behind Zone Motion? And so, yeah, Buddy, I'll just let you kind of take it over from here. Tell your origin story, how you came to, start this idea that became Zone Motion as we know it today.
Sure, Colin. So it all started with my zone experience in the 1985 World Series. I was a shortstop for the Royals. And I had a zone experience where everything just slowed down and I wasn't thinking. And everything I did was very fluid and effortless. Literally, and I choose my words very carefully in life, literally every single ball throughout 7 games in that series can be right in the sweet spot of my glove. And every single throw came out of my hand like I like to say butter off a hot knife, perfect trajectory, perfect speed. I felt like I couldn't do anything wrong even if I tried. It was a really, really crazy experience. I was aware of my teammates and the surroundings, but I was just so locked in. I don't often use the word focus, but because focus is something that we feel like it takes effort sometimes to focus. But when the brain is in the right state, it doesn't take effort to focus or concentrate. It just naturally happens. And that was a state that I was in where I felt like I couldn't do anything wrong. Really, the only thing I did wrong in the series was I missed my the suicide squeeze button, the first at bat of the series in game 1. That created a lot of pressure on me going into game 2 because the media just ate it up because Ozzie Smith was my counterpart at shortstop for the Cardinals. And, they felt that as far as shortstops go in the series, that the Cardinals certainly had the advantage. I can't argue that at the time. He is a Hall of Famer and was then and always was a great player. So, but that caused a lot of pressure. At least I felt a lot of pressure, right, from that experience. But I went on to play really flawlessly and hit 73 points higher than my career average. And we ended up winning the series. We came back from a 3-1 deficit and won that series, won 3 in a row. And it was quite an experience. I was told I was a leading vote getter for MVP of position players. Brett Saberhagen, our Cy Young Award winning pitcher that year, won the award, rightfully so. However, from that point on, I could never figure out how to replicate that performance. It was by far the best baseball I'd ever played in my professional career, maybe even my amateur career. But I had no idea what happened in my mind that allowed me to experience the game as slowing down and not thinking and very fluid, effortless motion, perfect timing. I had no idea what happened. And I continued to, I probably started working harder than I'd ever worked because I knew I wanted to maintain that level of play. And I remember all the hours I spent in the batting cage, just working on everything I knew that I could work on to get better, but nothing worked. And I just kind of started a slow decline. And I just felt, this pressure to try and repeat. And it was just very, very difficult. I didn't know where to look. So that's where Zone Motion started. Because having an experience like that, and then 18 months later, I was out of the big leagues because I just didn't know where to go. And I remember my last game I played, I started at shortstop for the Astros against the Cincinnati Reds at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. And I was playing shortstop and I literally felt like I was playing in quicksand. And I realized now what happened was the bigger muscles in my body were starting to really dominate my motion, and the subtle fast twitch muscles that we want really enlivened in any sport basically went dormant. And it was just literally I felt like I was playing in quicksand. It was amazing. And I was a guy who had pretty good range at shortstop. But that's what happens when the brain is not in the right state. The body just doesn't function the way that it can function, right? And so that's what really started me on the path to discovering what was it that took place in the 1985 World Series that allowed me to have that experience, that zone experience. And that's how it all started. And then, I've learned over the years, I've learned so much about the brain and the brain-body connection. I had, as a child, I had a lot of head injuries. I fell off a bathroom counter when I was less than a year old, landed on the right side of my face. I've been told by all the people that have helped me get healthy. And from that experience on, and then, 4 or 5 other head injuries as a youth and an adult, really forced me, right? Everything, you turn lemons into lemonade, and everything's really a gift. And so, I used all those experiences, not by choice, but I had to, just to try and feel better and to cope and exist, on the planet. So I've learned a ton about the brain, and there's so many subtleties in our physiology, the brain and the whole brain, the nervous system. And there's so many, again, little subtleties or nuggets, we can refer to them as nuggets, that when we can really fine tune them, and a lot of them have to do with our thoughts and our belief systems, when we can really work at that deep, deep level, it's amazing what can happen to a human. And we see it in sports all the time now. Amazing, amazing improvement. When my first four professional hitters, this was many years ago, when I started to figure out what we were doing, although I didn't really understand the science behind it, hadn't done the research and the studies that we've done now. However, my first 4 professional hitters, 3 of them were independent league hitters, and 1 was a major leaguer / AAA guy, up and down. They showed an average increase in batting average of 79 points. And I was like completely blown away. And I really, again, I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I just knew, wow, this works. And, but I realized, at the end of the season, I looked back on those statistics and I said, oh, I get it. I'm teaching these hitters how to access the origin of their emotion. So anytime you have access to the origin of anything, whether it's the roots of a garden or the foundation of a building, you then have a chance to control everything that comes after it. Okay. And so what we've learned over time is that the origin of motion is in the brain. And there's some real subtleties that when you start to align with these laws of motion, when we're able to get information to as we call the library preparation, the middle of the brain, and then to the back of the brain. The middle of the brain is where the motion is stored. And the back of the brain is where the information can get to, the cerebellum, part of the motor system, that allows us to execute the motion, all the muscles to fire synchronistically. When we can do that, then our full ability rises to the surface. A lot of people thought I played over my head in the World Series, right? As I look back, I realized, no, I didn't play over my head. I was just able to access my full ability. And so as an athlete or a human in life, everybody, what we want to do in every moment is to be able to access our full ability. And so that's what Zone Motion is about. That's how it all got started. And it's been quite a journey. It hasn't been an easy journey for me to get healthy and to figure out these little processes. And now we've done 4 studies, right? We've done 4 research projects / studies, and have proven that we can greatly enhance performance and speed up the development of any athlete. And we've had great success in keeping pitchers free of arm injuries, because what happens in this process in the mind is all the muscles start to fire synchronistically. So we know that there's less pull and less tension on ligaments and tendons, and muscles and fascia. And we've proven that on a small sample size, but that small sample size and the results from that small sample size align with all the testimonials that athletes have given us, and all the anecdotal evidence that I've watched over the years and heard from clients. So, we're just really excited to start to, we're going to really start to bring this out now into the mainstream. And so that's really, really exciting. It's very exciting for me to be on this podcast today. We're going to call it a video podcast, I believe, the Zone Motion video podcast. So it's very, very exciting for me to start to really, really share and have you, Colin, as an amazing partner up in Chester Aldridge of US Equity Holdings, to bring this to the world of sports all over the world. So very exciting time for me.
Yeah. I mean, the timing is perfect. The world needs this right now, beyond just sports even, right? I think, and you've mentioned that this goes far beyond sports as well. And it almost feels like the origination of the idea itself and the concepts behind it, from what we've talked about, comes from outside of sports. And it's almost like you're just bringing in these universal truths and principles and applying them to sports, which is really exciting. So my next question for you is, I know you said, the idea for Zone Motion kind of grew out of necessity for you to figure out, how do I get back to my full ability rising to the surface? What was that journey like in discovering the different universal principles, and like, meeting people along the way, and like what was that process like of really discovering, how zone motion worked?
Well, it was kind of like, it was a process. The first word that comes to mind is desperation. Yeah, when you're depressed and you're anxious and your brain doesn't function very well, and kind of wonder what the heck happened to you. I think desperation is an appropriate word. But some key turning points for me. One, when I learned transcendental meditation, the mind started to really settle down. That was very helpful. And at the moment, just brought me, I started to see more light. I could feel a little more joy in my system. And I started to see things a little bit differently, which was very, very helpful. And then I, basically just trusted that the people that I needed to help me grow and feel better would just kind of show up. So I entered a state of non-resistance. I was just like, okay, I give up, help me, right? And so when we really surrender from the desired result, and just we're wide open, our channels, I like to say our channels open up for you. The answers come. Seek and you shall find, right? And so I just found, I've been blessed by amazing people, Stephen Yellen, Allison Dorina Dorer, you, Chester Aldridge, all the wonderful people that have come into my life to help guide me, right? We need other people on this planet to achieve what we want to achieve. And I've just been very blessed that everybody's shown up. And I've gotten a lot of help, a lot of support, and answers just keep coming. And now we're able to work with these athletes and give them the experience that I had in the World Series, to really be able to understand at the deepest fundamental level, which is the brain, the emotional state, what's really taking place when you're playing your best, and how to align with it and access it on a regular basis. So very, very gratifying. It's life-changing stuff. It applies to other areas of life as well. So that's, I have to be honest, that's what's really gratifying when I hear a client say, hey, you know what, I'm just feeling better in all areas of life. Things are working better. They're clicking. It's very gratifying.
Yeah, for sure. And I've we've spoken a lot about just those incredible moments that people have, outside of sports and just in their lives, and just feeling better. And so it's really interesting that when you start to optimize one area, which is in this case is like performance and development, and also we talk about soft tissue injury, avoiding that as well. You don't just optimize those areas. It's a very holistic approach, which is super, super important. My other question was going to be just like, if someone's coming to zone motion from just not knowing anything, and this is maybe they're watching this podcast right now and they don't know anything about you, they don't know much about zone motion, this is kind of their first taste of anything that you do, what's the one thing that someone should take away from your story?
That anything is possible. Yeah, just know whatever it is you want. If you can have that thought, it's possible, right? And so I knew years and years and years ago, after baseball, that that I would be teaching what I'm teaching now, that I would be able to teach athletes how to systematically access their best ability. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I just knew that I was going to do it, and I could feel it, right? And so that listening to the intuition, really asking yourself the question, what is it that I want, right? And it'll happen. It'll happen if you're aligned, right? So that's what we do with athletes. That's the athlete wants to play better. Well, okay, let's get aligned. Boom. It happens. It's science, right? It's science is what it is. You combine science with the physics of emotion, which is what we do with hitters and pitchers. You speed up development like that. It's crazy how quickly you can speed up development in a healthy manner too. So if you can have the thought, you can achieve it. That's what I would like them to take away from this.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'd like us to wrap up now. I don't think there's too much else that we need to talk about. I feel like you covered the origin story really well. Do you have any other closing thoughts or anything like that that's coming to mind?
No, just I'm very, very excited to share this on a broad basis now. And whoever is listening to this, don't take my word, but just keep listening. You'll love what happens in your life.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think our both of our goals, for this, especially, is like anybody, regardless if they decide to work with you or not, like, I want them to be able to get a ton of value, because I've gotten a ton of value just from working closely with you and having conversations like this one. So, for people tuning in, just know that, like, our goal with this is to provide as much value as possible, and hopefully more valuable or more value than you're going to get from maybe some of these other, courses or trainings, or even some coaches out there. Like, if we can do that, if we can give more value just on this podcast, then we've done our job. And it's
Yeah.
just a matter of reaching more people at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right on board. It brings me great joy to be doing this. So thanks, Colin.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, everybody watching. And we will see you next time on the Zone Motion podcast. Take care.